It's the end of the day with Ray. Hello, my friends. Hey, somebody sent me an article yesterday. They said, Ray, read this article. It's a kind of a recap of HP's 2020. It was a recap of their virtual event that they had, and they talked about their numbers and how fantastic everything is over at HP. And the person said, I'm reading this article, and I'm thinking, how are they doing so much better than all the other players that service the document imaging channel, the imaging channel, the BTA business model? You see, folks, this is what we need to think about. If you're a reseller that's selling business equipment to businesses, you're walking in the front door and you're selling these people printers and MFPs and print management programs, a lot of the stuff HP doesn't apply to you. In other words, you could care less how many $200 printers they put in people's houses. That's not really where you're going to make your money. Those could be add-ons to your business. If you had an e-commerce website, for instance, you could sell that stuff. But you can't monetize the business that you're accustomed to by selling $200 printers, okay? So we need to clarify that. But anyway, I'm reading this article and I'm thinking to myself, you know what? I'm going to have to translate this into Ray translation because I read HP's financials. And what I'm reading in the article, I'm not saying the article's wrong. I'm just saying it would be better to look at the financials and ask a couple of different questions, and that's what I want to do here today. Because quite honestly, if I was a shareholder of HP, I'd be selling my stock based on what they did in 2020, not buying more. Let me explain why. So let's start out with this article. So the title of this article is HP says print is resilient. Let's hope so. But let's read this first paragraph. And it's in this first paragraph, ladies and gentlemen, where we kind of set the tone for what's going on over at HP for the reader. Okay? We're setting the tone in this first paragraph. Well, most office equipment manufacturers have been hammered in this current business environment. HP's results tell a different story. Not immune from the impact, but cushioned from some of its cruelest blows. So I want you to let's just digest this a little bit. Okay? HP's not immune from all the disasters that everybody else felt, but they seem to be cushioned from some of its cruelest blows. They're like, it sounds like, well, they're in better shape than everybody else. They were cushioned from all these blows that everybody else got. Like I said, if you're in the document imaging channel, if you're a BTA dealer, HP in that business model did just as bad as everybody else, not better. Let me explain. It goes on to say that HP gave us an inside look into the year ahead and development plans for the next 3 to 5 years during their annual and this year virtual Power of Print analysis event. And here are some of the highlights. And Mr. Tran, the president of the Imaging Printing Solutions at HP Inc., kicked off the event by recapping 2020. This is a quote from him. 2020 started out good, but quarter 2 and quarter 3 were challenging. In quarter 4, we are really seeing the printer market pick up, said Tran. So you're thinking to yourself, oh God, that global pandemic, quarter 4, thankfully quarter 4 came back for us. We're doing so much better now. Of course, when you compare quarter 4 to quarter 2 or 3, let's be honest, folks, quarter 2 or 3, he says it best, was a dumpster fire. Was a dumpster fire for the whole entire industry. So, a comparison against quarter 3 to quarter 4 is not an indication of where we're going to be 3 to 5 years from now. That's for damn sure. And then Tran said print is resilient and characterized. Let me pull this back down. Sometimes my board is quicker than my hand. Tran said the print is resilient and characterized by the post-pandemic recovery is uneven, as you'd expect. HP saw year-over-year increases in units in the home segment. Year-over-year increases in units in the home segment. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the first thing I want to talk about. We're going to go over there and look at the financials on HP's own website. But first, I got to circle this. HP saw a year-over-year increase in units in the home segment, right? I got it circled. Okay, so let's go ahead and pull up their financials. The home segment is the consumer hardware business, okay? And you can go to HP's website, pull up the financials. Really nice looking PowerPoint slides here. I scrolled it up a little bit because I want you all to understand what the consumer hardware net revenue category it consists of. And it says right here, consumer hardware includes home printing solutions excluding supplies. Okay? Now, let's go back real quick here. HP saw a year-over increase in units in the home segment, right? The home segment, small printers. But over here on their financials, it says they're 1% down. He didn't say quarter over quarter, he said year over year. So ladies and gentlemen, the question I have, I realize that 1% is not a big decline, but we're not over. We're flat at best. And there's a global pandemic. The work from home thing is nutty. People are buying these little printers, and big old distributors are buying them from HP and storing them in warehouses because they think the whole world's going to put a printer in their house. You think that business would be up big time. It's actually down from where it was in 2019 before the global pandemic, right? We're not talking about the commercial business, the BTA business model. We're talking about the consumer hardware model for your house. Down 1%. And that down 1% is going to be really important when we start talking about subscriptions coming up soon. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, let's go back to this article because it gets good. But when you zoom in on the SMB, this is a good, now we're talking about the SMB space, okay, that consumer place. A graphic segment, it looks like they are making a comeback with a 28% and 64% quarter over quarter growth respectively. Isn't that a nice way of saying that your decline in the third quarter was 37% decline? Your decline in the fourth quarter is only a 22% decline. So that's a 60-something% increase, right? It's not an increase. You're still at a 22% decline. And ladies and gentlemen, let me just pull this stuff back up on their financials. 23% decline year over year in what we call the BTA business. That dealer going into offices and selling equipment. HP is 23% down, just like every other manufacturer. Just like Konica, just like Ricoh, just like all the rest of them. No big home run there. Don't be confused by 64% better. Let's just talk about the real decline for the year. It's 23%. Total hardware units down 5%. Here's something interesting, folks. We got to pay attention to this. I'm going to circle it while I got this page up. Supply business down 10%. Down 10%. Think about that. Okay, let me erase that and go back to the article. Ladies and gentlemen, it gets a little better. They talk about the subscription story. And this is they even mentioned something about stockholders are excited about subscriptions. I got to ask HP a couple of questions. If you had 5 million subscriptions in 2019 and you went from 5 million to 8 million, you had 3 million more subscriptions. That's a big number, right? That's a big number. 3 million more subscriptions. What does that mean? What does that mean to the bottom line of HP? What are those subscriptions? Those are the questions we need to be asking because, ladies and gentlemen, if you go back to their PowerPoint of their year, they added 3 million subscriptions, but let me get my pen out because this is impactful. We got to circle stuff. Their supplier revenues are down 10%. So if I'm the shareholder, I'm asking this. You added 3 million subscriptions, but your supply business is down 10%. The subscriptions were supposed to help you sell supplies. Adding subscriptions and not getting new revenue isn't a good thing, is it? How many of these 8 million subscriptions, are going to get canceled? How many of the 5 million before you added the other 3 million were canceled? Did all 5 million from 2019 still come into 2020? When people get the overage, when they go over what's allowed on the subscription, do they cancel? Do they get mad? What's going on with that? What's the average subscription price? These are the questions I'd be asking if I was a stockholder. I wouldn't get all excited because I went from 5 million to 3 million, especially when the supplies business is down 10%, especially when the hardware business for that consumer segment is down 1%. Right? Something to think about. Ladies and gentlemen, the point of all this is this, that if you're in the document imaging channel, the place I've called home for over 30 years, if you're a dealer that sells to end users, print equipment, supplies that equipment, and services that equipment, your business with HP was down just like everybody else's, 23%. That's the reality. And so you have to ask yourself a question. If HP's already really the lowest player in that space, especially their A3 fantasies, coming out of this pandemic, are they really going to get bigger? Are they really going to displace these other OEMs? Really? As the other OEMs start consolidating and putting pressure on that B2B reseller, Is HP going to come in there with some different program? Well, that article did talk about the Amplify program. From what I heard about the Amplify program, folks, this is just people telling me stuff. They don't like it. It seems to be intrusive to customer information. But it's just something to think about as we read these things. Sometimes we've got to go to the financials and just ask the right questions. Because I'd love for HP to put in the comments some more details, or maybe publish an article about the details around the subscriptions. What's the average revenue off a subscription? What's the average tenure of a subscription? What's the average overage of the subscription? You see, those are informations that'll give you some insight whether or not you should invest. You're surely not going to invest because somebody said they sold 8 million subscriptions and they only had 5 million before. You don't have any basis of what the other 3 million are, or even what the other 5 million were. Right? It's time to peel the onion back. It's time to face the realities that the Document Imaging Channel and all the manufacturers that it represents are in the biggest decline in the industry's history. It's not going back. It's going to consolidate. Those dealerships are going to have to pivot into other services and solutions. There's going to be major shakeup within the industry of the main five. And ladies and gentlemen, we can't just sugarcoat everything to make us all feel good. We need to peel the onion back, dig deep, and figure out how we're going to pivot our own business and survive and thrive. Because we all know this, my friends, status quo is the killer of all that'll be invented. Don't get stuck in status quo, and I'll see y'all tomorrow.